So tell me, I mean, what are the protocols or the legal requirements of doing a doorstop? If you're actually going to doorstop someone, is there ways and means you can do it, how you can do it?
Yeah, we have to try and avoid doing it on any private property, obviously. We have to make sure that we basically had to follow them. We had a private investigator who would follow them for the days leading up to the doorstep, try and get an idea of where they were when. So, for example, if they go to an office or if they were going to if they were coming out of their home, and then we'd have the private investigator would then be there on the morning from dawn, on the sort of the morning of the confront. We had a very strict protocol from Channel 5 that we were never allowed to do it if they were with their children, for example, on the school run, even with any third party, so wife or partner, preferably not in a very public place. Although we did. I mean, it was a difficult one finding ideally we did it sometimes when there was just them on the road and no one else around. That would be our ideal, so that we weren't catching people in the background or doing it in a shop. There was one where we ended up doing it in a shop, and then the builder felt really cornered, and that wasn't great. He wasn't happy about that, because we don't want them to get upset or angry. I mean, they usually did, but we don't want to feel threatened in any way, obviously. So yes, we had health and safety issues. We had to have security with us. We had to have the private detective to give us advice. So yeah, it was quite a feat.
And is there a certain amount of questions you can ask, a certain amount of time you can push for things?
Yeah, I mean, it just had to be reasonable. John wasn't allowed, although he did a few kind of running down the roads. We did get a few complaints from the builders saying, I felt really harassed, I was really scared. So we had to kind of rein that back a bit and just make sure it's reasonable and they didn't feel scared and they didn't feel that they were going to be hit or anything like that. Not that Dom ever did that, obviously, but sometimes it did get a little bit too that we were literally chasing them for a long time down the road, and that wasn't great. A little bit of running down the road though was just right. But if they and I think there was a thing about the car door as well. There was one complaint once where I think that the builder said that he hadn't been allowed to get into his car, and actually I think he Ofcommed us on that, but he hadn't done anything wrong. But that feeling that they can't escape, we weren't allowed to physically prevent them from getting away. But at the same time, if they just walked away, Don was allowed to just sort of keep asking questions, especially if we had some terrible stories, obviously, that we featured. And Don would quite often show photographs of the terrible work that they'd done, or photographs of the family that he'd left in this terrible state, just to try and get the reaction, to try and get an apology for the contributor, for the homeowner.
Wow. And what was the sort of the worst sort of response that you've had? I mean, just in terms of you obviously protect the safety of the crew, protect the safety of the team.
I think one of the builders did punch a cameraman once, I think, and he went over. I think that, or maybe tried to, maybe. But generally, actually, they kind of, once the programme had been going out a few times, they kind of knew what was coming, so they were just a bit like, oh God, he's got me, kind of thing. And so there wasn't too much aggression generally. There was a lot of denying and a lot of, oh, I don't know, and go away. But they weren't surprised. By towards the end, they weren't surprised, and they knew if they didn't reply, I think that they would get the doorstep.
And generally, from their point of view, because this whole premise is, obviously, as we said, the title's cowboy builders. We know we're going to go after dodgy builders in the show. It's quite immediately. You know what the premise is. Is the main thing for them their right to reply? Is that what you would say that they're? Can you just explain that?
Yeah, the main thing. Well, that's the whole reason it's in Ofcom, is that it's fairness. It's to be fair to them. So, if there's a reason that they didn't do a build did go wrong that was maybe related to the contributor having added later stuff to the quote that was never agreed in the beginning. I mean, we had a few things, or just that they went out of business. That was quite often in the recession, so we were filming a lot of it over the recession, so quite a lot of them did struggle, just had a huge struggle financially. And so it's basically giving the viewer their side of the story. That's what the Right to Reply is all about, so that they have an opportunity to give their side of the story. And we often did have long interviews where we gave them their side of the story, and sometimes they apologised to the contributors. We got that on film a few times, and sometimes they were genuinely very remorseful, and really did feel bad about what they'd done. And then other times we'd just get these sort of serial cowboy builders that just basically made an absolute fortune ripping people off. So, and they're the ones that usually tended, not always, but tended to argue the strongest and get the lawyers involved because they had more to lose, because that was what their modus operandi was basically, and they'd been jailed for it, quite a lot of them. We worked a lot with authorities, we worked with trading standards, we worked with building control. It's really an area that people get very frustrated, authorities get very frustrated about, because it's often not a criminal offence, and so authorities really struggle. Trading standards were very happy with what we were doing, and they really worked with us, and we worked with them, and we helped them where possible.
Must have been delighted.